Namo Tassa. Some people ask me about dreams. A little touch on that. Yes, dreams are connected to whatever happened in your life, connected to your mind, your psychology, basically your karma, and as such connected to what happened in your previous lives. So yes, they can tell about that. Basically what's going on in your mind, your personality, and your life. They can tell you about things from the past, and it could give you hints for what may happen in the future. Of course, you should remember that you can also affect your karma, future karma, anytime. But some things are very, very deeply anchored in your mind, in your personality. So you can't really avoid them. But still, the way you will face them or be able to handle them depends on how you practice your mindset. So, yes, dreams, even though they seem like sometimes like sci-fi, science fiction things that don't have to do with that reality of life as we know it, or like mythological or anything with aliens or ghosts or spirits, whatever. All this exists in the universe, exactly beyond the realm of what most people know or are aware of. Just a famous quote that I also wrote, and what is known is that most of people only see with their eyes, and they only know what they see or what they can touch, again, what connects to their basic five senses. But there's a lot more beyond that, exactly to confirm why most people maybe use only 20-25% of their brain capacities or the awareness. Just as it is known that we only know or see that range of frequencies in the spectrum of colors, light, but of course the frequencies go far beyond on each side, and the human eyes can only capture this little range. But the mind itself, of course, deep down is connected to everything and whatever happened for your billions of lives before, existences through different realms, and what's happening now in this life, this apparent reality that you have every day. So dream connects to that. They tell you about that. At the same time, you should not develop compulsive impulse to try to interpret them, exactly because most of the time you won't have the skills or the capacity to interpret them objectively, especially if they touch into these kind of unrealistic situations or science fiction or otherworldly things. They give you hints, but there's no need to try to become really compulsive about trying to interpret them. Sometimes they are very simple and they give you a hint exactly about what's happening in your life, in your everyday life, even like the last day or something like this. And then that's quite easy. But the point is also that in some ways, if you practice meditation and you manage to go deeper and deeper over time, then one day, again, as always, as it should be, naturally, by itself, through the proper practice of meditation, things will come up and they will become clear in your mind. And you will have again that aha moment. And you will be like, oh, okay, I see what that dream referred to at the time. Now I understand. And that's the way everything should be around the path of Dharma and meditation and your progress. You don't seek things, you don't force things, you don't demand, you don't expect. You just do the most simple practice the proper way, diligently, and things will come up naturally when they're supposed to. And then again about the dreams, understand that the point is that for most people, again, they become kind of unconscious, let's say, right, when they're sleeping. So the point is that they live their life with the classic busy, tensed mind, full of worries and stress and overthinking and all of that. So all this creates tensions, of course, in the mind, and that is actually like a filter, like a sensor in the mind. So when you fall asleep as a regular person, you become kind of unconscious in the sense that then you release those filters, that sensor. So that's why everything from deep down is allowed to come up to that surface. And that's why you can experience all these kind of things or crazy things, but only because now you kind of released the tension and the filters of the mind that you put on as soon as you wake up and you start to think a lot about things, the monkey mind, for your everyday things. So that's why the dreams can tell a lot, really, about your life and everything, and from the past and your karma and your personality. And if you are already at a certain level of meditation, you know already how to have a clear mind, and you also can have a aware sleep. So that's different. But you know how to not have those filters on, and you just accept what comes up with equanimity, objectively. And that is, of course, a very good thing, to be able to have an aware sleep, which is the same like saying that when you are dreaming, when it happens, you are aware that you are dreaming. That happens to me, of course, and sometimes actually I just play with my stories in the dream, because I'm aware it's a dream, and I just play different variants, different end of the story or whatever. And if it tends to be like unpleasant in some ways, then it's easy to say, okay, it's just a dream and just get rid of it. But they always tell about things. So if you're at that level, you become more aware of what's going on and what it means. But for most people, it's like they fainted, they become unconscious. But at least that's what allows a lot of all this information about you and your life and your karma from previous lives to show up and tell you. But again, don't try too hard to interpret them. I know there's supposedly maybe a science. Of course, there was Freud and the psychology that supposedly tried to set up some interpretation guidelines, but actually it's quite individual. So maybe with time when you remember your dreams and you start to see some patterns or anything, then you can have a good idea. But anyway, that's just the way it works. So in one way, don't try too hard to interpret them, but just take them for what they are. And yes, they give you a hint about you, yourself, and your life and your karma, and so give you some signs about what maybe you could expect in the future. But at the same time, don't become OCD about that. And then understand that why sometimes you dream some weird things is only because life is much beyond what most people think on this planet in their regular life, that apparent reality, which is only an apparent reality in a very narrow spectrum range of experiences or awareness that people have. So then when they sleep, that becomes unfiltered and it comes up to the surface and tell you about also the possibilities and what actually exists in the universe. And you are part of it, so you have had many existences, so your life is connected to all that in all kind of realms. So that's a little touch on dreams.